Well, this question says, find the domain, range, and axis symmetry and maximum minimum value of something.
Yes.
You know what I would do? I would ignore all that and look at the something.
Okay.
Okay? And the something is the equation y equals -3 times x minus 4 squared plus 10. Okay? What's the graph of that function look like? Well, you graph that function. You start with your y equals x squared. You vertically stretch it by a factor of 3. Then you shift it 4 units. Actually, yeah, you do that, but then you got the negative, which I didn't account for. So here's y equals -3x squared, right? Now we come down here and we shift it horizontally 4 units and vertically 10 units, right?
Yep.
So let's shift it horizontally 4 units. Well, that's going to give us a graph that kind of looks like this, and now we got y equals -3 times x minus 4 squared. Then we shift it 10 units vertically, and we've got a graph that looks something like this. Now, I'm not drawing this very well to scale. It might not be too far off, so we come up to 10 units because we got to shift this thing up 10. And now we got y equals -3 times x minus 4 squared plus 10. Okay? In other words, we graph the blame thing. Not by plugging in points. And an approximate graph suffices to answer most of these questions. Okay? So now let's go back and look at our questions. We don't get hung up on the questions and, gee, how am I going to get that? How am I going to get that? How am I going to get that? We do the obvious thing and examine the object, and then we look at what is being asked about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there's a huge tendency to get hung up on the questions before you look at what the question is asking about, right?
I believe that.
I do that all the time.
Graph the thing and you've got a point of reference. Now, somebody tell me, what's the maximum value of this function?
The maximum value would be
The vertex?
3x squared.
It's going to be a number.
Oh. 10.
Do you love it now? You don't have to answer that. That's a personal question. Okay, now. Okay?
Yeah.
Right there it is. Maximum value occurs at the vertex. Does it have a minimum value?
I'm guessing it would be like negative.
No, it just keeps on going down.
Exactly.
Okay?
Oh, all right. Let me make sure I write that down.
So,
That's the one. Higher. Vertical shape like that.
clearly the vertex is at 410. Now, once you get familiar with this, you can see that just by looking at the equation, right? But I always tell you, you're not limited in time on a test. Graph the blame thing, okay? And not with a graphing calculator, although if you have a graphing calculator, after you've constructed the graph, it's not a bad idea to let the graphing calculator do it and see if you did it right. Check yourself. Get some feedback, okay? I have nothing against a graphing calculator used properly, but if you replace this process and bypass the whole thing with a graphing calculator, you don't learn anything. Except how to use a graphing calculator to do something you don't understand. Okay? Which is, of course, where education seems to be these days. Okay. Clearly then, vertex is at the point 410. Okay? So, vertex at 410, opening downward. So the maximum value is 10. Is that clear? The value of the function is what you measure on the y-axis. It's y equals f of x. What's the maximum thing you can get by plugging numbers into f of x? 10, in this case. Okay? Well, what's the domain of this function?
Negative.
Is there any x value that you can't put in here? Will this give you a value no matter what number you put in for x? Okay, so we gotta get these out of the way. So any value of x gives a y value, so the domain is negative infinity to infinity, isn't it? Any x, that means, you know, the interval negative infinity to infinity. Okay, what about the range?
Negative infinity is 10, including 10.
Could be any, the range is the values the function can take. You can see clearly from the graph that your y values stop at 10, but they, if you go down, they just keep going, right? No limit to the y values. So the range is negative infinity 10. Anything else?
Axis of symmetry. 4.
Clearly no minimum value, right? Yeah, there's no limit to how far you can go in the negative direction, right?